So, hi Yuval,
Hi,
this is Yuval Filmus from Technion, Haifa, Israel. So, how are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Yeah, so for some people, this has been a bad experience. For me, in many ways, it's been a good experience. So,
Can
for
you?
example, I got myself some kind of exercise bike, so I'm getting in shape, for example, trying to make the most of it. I'm cooking, whatever. I'm doing my research, I'm working with students. Maybe that's a bit harder, but it's still going on. It hasn't been so hard for me being away from people.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm adjusting and I wouldn't mind the situation continuing for a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, has the research become more difficult, or is it becoming difficult to do research during this time, or you don't find it, or has the experience not changed much?
So it really depends. So of course it's harder to do face-to-face meetings, harder or impossible. Um, but a lot of the research that I'm doing is mostly on my own. So this has not been affected. I have been having some research meetings, some of them pretty long with some people, so it works well with some people. It works less well with other people. I think with junior people, it may be a bit harder. Yeah, so in general, I'm not complaining. So things have been progressing.
I see. And for example, the collaborations you were doing with people outside may have not changed much at all. Or are there difficulties on their side because of which you've had any issues or something like this?
So I think actually collaboration with people from outside, so that would have already taken place over video. So this has been going on fine. The main difference is working with locals. So if you used to be able to use a board, then this is harder now. Okay, so we have iPad. It's not such a big deal, but still the experience is not the same. And also, now it's more difficult to let's say drop in my office because you'll have to contact me in some other way. Or I used to see some of these people every day for lunch, but this is not happening. So we're kind of losing touch a bit.
And vis-a-vis teaching, has anything changed there?
So I think for teaching, I'm actually doing better. Um, yeah, so when you have this huge board, then you need to use one technique, and now I'm using a different technique on the iPad. One thing I've been using, I've been writing some tips on the pages, it's more organized, and I can remember exactly what I have to do. It's much easier.
Mhm.
Also, in terms of discussions with students, I don't feel it's any worse.
Mhm.
So what used to happen is I would get asked a question and I wouldn't understand it, and I would give the wrong answer. Somehow now it's better. People are still asking questions, but somehow it's working better actually. So for me, it's been a good experience. Now this is an introductory class. If I try to do a more advanced class, then maybe things will be different. We'll see maybe next semester.
So this is interactive, as in you are teaching and students are kind of joining the meeting at the same time. And because probably in Israel, connectivity is not so much of an issue. Your students who are willing to attend will be able to attend. Nobody is sort of not going to be able to attend because of connectivity or something like
Yeah, so that's been my experience. Yeah.
that. Right. And you said next semester. So is there some sort of a expectation that this mode may continue for a bit longer, or this was?
Well, so people expect there to be a second wave that will coincide maybe with the beginning of the second semester. Of course, it's everybody's guess, but it could happen. And I think this time will be even simpler because we already know what to do and we already know that it's working.
What are you doing for grading?
Yeah, so in my particular class, we have a midterm whose main purpose is to convince the students to actually study the material during period rather than just for the final exam. So this we're not doing. We were having a midterm, but it's not graded. It will be self-graded, but it won't count. And for the final exam, we really hope that this would be able to take place in person. If not, then there are some suggestions. None of them are very good. We're afraid that students will cheat. Okay, that they cheat even when it's physical, but now it will just be that much easier. And even if only a few people cheat, then it's unfair for the rest of them.
Yes.
Yeah, but we hope that we won't have to think about it. One thing which is problematic is, so in Israel we have mandatory makeup exams. It's mandatory for us, not for the students.
Mm-hmm.
So the mandatory makeup exam for the previous semester, it got killed by the situation. So now these people will have to join our own exams this semester, and this means that we have to prepare 3 different versions instead of 2 different versions. So this might be some sort of a challenge also for grading. Yeah, but other people have had it much worse, so I'm really not complaining.
Right, right. And so in this situation, when we are at home and, generally maybe even among students, the spirits are sort of not as high as they usually would be, would there be like some advice or some sort of words of uh, encouragement that you like to give to your students or want to give to students in CS or something like this?
So I think the best thing that I can do personally is keep in touch with my students.
Mm.
I'm not the most empathetic person, so I don't think I can function as some kind of psychological support personally. Maybe other people can. Something which could happen and has to be avoided is that people might get completely lost. They might lose touch and stay in the dark. So that's why I try to contact my students every so often. Maybe less than I would in other circumstances, but still. I think for me that feels enough. So far, I don't feel like any of my students are having it terribly bad. If the situation changes, then I also wouldn't take care of it. I would just tell somebody who is more professional and they would take care of it. Yeah, so I'm here to observe and to keep in touch. That's how I think of my duty.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah. And how about our research changing? So we are all TCSs. We really don't need much pen, paper. A board is enough. But travel is sort of a good part of our research. So
I mean,
how?
that's good, but you don't travel every day, right? So I usually travel between the semesters. Okay, so most of the time I'm at home. When I am allowed to travel, I try to travel as much as possible. So this might get delayed. On the other hand, there are so many people to collaborate with in Israel that I don't think it's going to be a huge problem. In terms of research, so I've been having several collaborations. I've been doing a bit of on my own, and recently I've mostly been reading papers for Fox. So that's also a research activity, which is definitely something that I can do on my own. And also actually planned in order to make space for it to try not to come to the office as often during this period. And yeah, again, I think it's actually a lucky coincidence.
That's great. But going forward, I mean, there's this whole discussion about, maybe this is the mode we should be operating in. I mean, why not? As you said, travel is not so important either. So, do you feel any way strongly about this?
Yeah, I think human interaction, like personal interaction, it has a strong role to play. What I can say, and I've been saying for some time now, at least to myself, is I think most conferences should be abolished. So, like in many conferences, the only reason you come to the conference is because you have to, okay, which I think is ridiculous. And I try to avoid these conferences. What you can do instead, you can have research visits, like longer visits. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You can have workshops, which are more focused. This I think is much better, and also that you can make it into a longer trip. So if that is going to be one of the outcomes, I'll be very happy. I don't think so, but you can always hope. Um, as for traveling to the office or not, so already we don't really have to travel to the office unless we're teaching. And some people don't do it, but I think it's much better if you're in an environment where you can see people. No, maybe not all the time, and it really depends on the person, but for me, it's nice. I can also cope no problem when it doesn't happen, but it's different. So maybe for me, maybe I should be more flexible and maybe staying home every so often, or come back early sometimes. Yeah, but I wouldn't abolish the physical space.
Yeah.
And also, like, part of it is you want to have informal discussions and you want to have chance meetings, and that doesn't happen online. It's like when you go to a bookstore or a library, then you see stuff that you wouldn't otherwise be aware of.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the conference travel and conference in general, yeah, I can do without.
I think many of us can actually. So, okay, so about TCS, so what is exciting right now for you? Is there like something special you want to talk about?
What is exciting? Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I'm not too excited by anything at the moment. This is some sort of a problem for me. Okay, so I had this plan that I was going to develop Fourier analysis in strange domain, and this is going to be helpful. And I still think it's interesting. I just think that other people are already doing it, and they're doing it better than me. There are some other areas which I find interesting, let's say lifting, but again, I don't consider myself much of an expert. So maybe I'm looking for something that will really grab my attention.
So this is an open invitation to algebraic complexity then.
Yeah, I mean, there's some subject that I've been thinking about for some time that I think is worth doing. I'm not sure I'm the correct person, and this is understanding why algorithms work as well as they do in practice. Okay, so I think this is more kind of a scientific question where you have to forgo this idea of proof, and instead it's more of a modeling situation. I think this is something worthwhile to be done. It's not done so much or enough in our community. I'm not sure I'm the correct person to do it. Yeah. And I
That,
don't have any concrete plans.
yeah, like a lot of these problems in machine learning and so on get solved by these heuristics, which are very, very good, and people I get to understand why they work and maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, but you can do it in sat solving, interrupt programming, machine learning. I'm sure you can find many more examples. Clustering algorithms. It's a kind of a mystery.
Yeah, certainly.
And it seems that people in TCS don't work and are not interested in this because it's something which is hard to formalize.
And now to just close it off, I was when we were chatting, I already mentioned this, but do you think TCS can play any role in the current pandemic situation, or we should just be the you know people who follow the trends rather than getting into the mix?
Yeah, so I think we're not experts in epidemiology, we're not experts in economics, we're not experts in medicine. The only thing we might be helpful at, and this is something very specific, is group testing. So this is maybe in the intersection of combinatorics and TCS. This could actually be useful. So people who are experts on that, they can try to help. The rest of us, I think there are enough experts who are working on the actual problems, and we should just go on with our lives and make sure that the rest of the universe keeps going. Like there's more to life than the disease. We don't want everything to stop, and since we can actually go on, then we should just go on. That's what I think.
that very nice and positive, happy note, we'll end our interview. Thanks you all for your time.
Thank you.